Hey guys, I'm Joe Stillwell, and this is the Rebels Advocate. And I'm back for my second video after a long time. It's been a long time since my first video, but I've been kind of busy. I've become a father, kind of surprisingly, for me and my wife. It is basically one day we weren't parents, the next day we were. But it's been a fun ride, and more on that at the end of the video for anybody who cares. Because I know a lot of you don't care about my personal life. I don't blame you one bit. So let's get right to it. I want to talk about something that a lot of people's brought up to me. After my first video, I actually got, I think there's a couple comments, and I got a couple emails to this effect. And this is a question or an argument that I have brought up to me a lot, especially personally, people who know me personally. And I think I get it a lot in part because people who knew me, who know the kind of church I went to, they know that I went to a very strict church. They know, it's hellfire and brimstone, and always focusing on what you can't do. You can't do this and can't wear this. And so what I get is this argument, and then people look at me and they see I've left the church and now I'm an atheist, and they blame it on that. And they're like, well, that's the reason he's no longer in church. It's because of the church he went to pushed him away. They were too strict, and so one of the arguments they say is, well, Joe, no wonder you're an atheist. You have the wrong idea of God. And that people making arguments. Then I'll have people and friends come up to me and say things like, hey Joe, you should come to our church. And one of the things they love to say is, you can dress however you want. Nobody will judge you. I've often thought I should take them up on that offer and maybe show up in a belt and cowboy boots, They're like, well, y'all said you wouldn't judge me. Here I am. But, and they'll talk about how, our preacher focuses on the God of love and how loving God is and this and that and lifting people up, because it's not about judging, it's not about what you wear, it's not about what you do, where you go. It's like, you got the wrong idea of God. And so they'll sit there and they'll tell me, when I ask, okay, who is God? Who is God to you? And when they sit and they go through it and they tell me how loving and compassionate and what a close personal friend he is and all this, man, I gotta tell you, that guy sounds great. He really does. But I don't know where they get this idea of who God is. And I'm not sure why they think I'm so wrong, because I get my idea of who God is from one place. And that's from this book right here. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. That one don't count. From this book right here. I don't know if you can see it. I'm outside in the dark. By the way, the reason I'm outside in the dark is because the wife and baby are inside sleeping, and I didn't want to wake them up. And it's hard to get too far away when you live in a double-wide trailer, and not make noise while I'm out here ranting on a video. But anyway, this right here is where I get my idea of who God is. And so if you have any evidence whatsoever that is outside of this book, I'm happy to look at it, other than your anecdotal, personal, feelings. Well, I have a feeling, this is what I think God is. That don't count. The only thing you have as evidence is this book. And so I open it up, and I've read the Bible cover to cover before, and I'm actually in the process of doing it again. I don't know why I torture myself like this, but I am. And I'm almost to the end of Jeremiah, and it's been a beating. But, a lot of people try to tell me who God is, and they've never read through this book one time. If you haven't read this book cover to cover multiple times, don't try to tell me who God is. So who is God? Well, let's see. Let's just suppose that God is real. Let's pretend for a moment that, and I'm gonna suspend all my disbelief, and let's say God is real. And I pick up the Bible and I start reading. The first thing I read is in Genesis 1, He created the heavens and the earth. He created the whole universe. He created everything. First of all, this book is supposed to be divinely written by God, right? It was written by men, but divinely, by God through, by men through God, or however that is. And so, you're talking about a book that was basically written by the creator of the universe? Are you kidding me? When I open that book, I expect to be blown away. My brain should explode. This book should be so good. Instead, this is the most boring book I've ever written. I've ever read. And I know some people say, well, there's beautiful passages. And maybe it's because I'm still in the Old Testament, but I'm just not seeing it. I even remembered the Bible wrong, because it had been a while since I read it, and I was thinking, Psalms. I think Psalms was kind of, poetic and nice. No, Psalms isn't. Anyone who says Psalms is their favorite book, I'm not sure they've read Psalms from start to finish. It's not great, and it wasn't as peachy as I thought it was. But anywho, we start in Genesis 1, and this perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful God creates everything. That's Genesis 1. Genesis 3, everything's going all to hell. He's already lost control. He's already kicking Adam and Eve out of the garden. First of all, he puts Adam and Eve in there, and you can't make no sense of how he created things. He creates night and day, and then 4 days later he creates the sun and the moon. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, he says in one chapter he creates men, basically. So I don't know if he must have created this whole other set of people. And then, the next chapter, then he creates Adam. Then he creates animals, more animals apparently, because he already talked about creating animals. And then of course Adam's alone, so he creates Eve. And so he has them in this perfect little garden. Everything's perfect. But he's like, you know what I should do? I should put this tree in the garden. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And they can't eat that tree. They can't eat the fruit off of that tree. They can eat anything else but not that tree. And if they do, well, you get... Apparently, if you eat of that fruit, that's why kids get cancer. And that's what Christians will tell you. When you're like, why does all these bad things happen? Why is all this? Oh, it's because of original sin. It's because a man and a woman ate a fruit in a garden. And maybe you believe that's symbolic. Maybe that's not a true story. It's some kind of parable or whatever. But if it is, then what do you believe in the Bible? What is true and what's just some kind of story? I was raised to believe this was a literal story and it was true. So if it's not, then what's the point? So let's understand this. They ate the fruit, right? And the moment they ate the fruit, then they had knowledge of good and evil. They knew right from wrong after they ate the fruit. So God punished them. So basically what happened is God punished them for doing something that they didn't know they couldn't know was wrong because they had no knowledge of good and evil until they ate it. And now he punished them. That's the first thing. Kicks them out of the garden. And by the way, it doesn't, when you blame all this other stuff on original sin, understand God never said none of that. His punishment for the woman was, you're going to have pain in childbirth, and sorrow in childbirth. And the man is, well, the ground's going to be hard and thorns and thistles and, about the sweat of your brow, all that. There was no mention of childhood cancer. There's no mention of all these horrible diseases and all these other tragedies, all these, tsunamis and whatever when thousands of people are killed. He didn't mention none of that. No, he didn't say that's going to be your punishment. And by the way, even so, why would you punish? Why am I born into this world and being punished for something people did thousands of years ago? Makes no sense. So anyway, that's over. Skip ahead. Apparently in no time, the world goes completely berserk, evil again, and God's like, there's no, I don't know what to do. These people are out of control. What should we do? You know, he's talking to himself because he's like 3 people in one, apparently, so that he can talk to himself. And he's like, well, I tell you what, we're just going to have to flood them all. Just flood them. You know, I'm all powerful. I could literally snap my finger and they no longer exist, but let's flood them. But you know what? There's one family down there. They're pretty cool. I like them. That Noah guy. He's an alright feller. What if I tell him to build a boat? That's what I'll do. I'll tell him to build a boat. He can put his family in there because his family, they're good people. I'll save them. It's him and his wife. I think it's 3 sons. Their wives. That's enough to repopulate the entire earth in no time, right? Yeah, that'll work. So he floods the entire world. If this is true, that's what he did. Now remember, when apologists talk about this, they're going to tell you, oh, it was so evil. People were so evil that, you know, God had no choice. It's just, even though the Bible doesn't really tell us what they were doing, but they'll tell you, well, it's so evil. It's hard to tell what they're doing. But to understand, this isn't just evil people. When he floods the whole world, you realize there's little babies in the world, right? So they die one of the worst deaths you can die, by drowning. Imagine some 4-year-old little girl. She doesn't know what's going on. All of a sudden one day it just starts raining. By the way, apparently it had never rained before this day. So that, like, water's falling out of the sky. They've never seen that. Like, what the heck's going on? Dad throws her over his shoulder and they're running to high ground, running. The water's coming up. What's going on? This has got to be the most terrifying thing ever, if it was real. And, you know, maybe they climb up some hill and they climb higher and higher, but the waters just keep coming up. And he makes it to the top of the hill, and the man's just standing there, and he's got his daughters up. He's holding her up over his head, and the water just keeps rising higher and higher until his feet leave the ground, and now he's floating, and he's holding his daughter as high as he can, just trying to save her. But there's no saving her. The world's covered in water. And eventually, you know, he goes down, his arms give way, he falls, the girl struggles, and she dies in the most agonizing death you can imagine, because God said, you know, I tried to make these people good, they're just not good. Let's just wipe them all out. Wipe them all out. Nobody's good except this one little family. This one little family over here in the corner. They're good. Let's kill everybody else. Try to ignore the dogs. This is why I love cats. A lot of you made fun of me in my last video because of the cat thing. Somebody even said I need to be quiet about the cats. But most of you got the joke. But see, at least it's better than my neighbor's dogs. So, God destroys the whole world. Starts over. One righteous family. Nothing can go wrong now, right? But it does. You know, it never fails. You know, everything goes all to heck. And, you know, later we had Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember that one? It's kind of like the flood story. Except we're talking about these 2 cities or whatever. Again, he can't find nobody. Nobody's good. And by the way, the one person he found that was good, this guy, like, offered up his daughters to rapists. That's the good guy you found? That's the guy you're going to save? And then he's guiding them out, and he's like, don't turn back, you know, don't look back, as he's destroying the city. And apparently Lot's wife, you know, turns around. What? Turn her to a pillar of salt. Why? Oh. Turned her to a pillar of salt. Why? The guy who created the entire universe. And he's like, man, she looked back, pillar of salt. Does that make any sense to you? Then what about Abraham and Isaac? Remember that one? You know, it's like, hey, do you love me? Yeah, I love you, God. Well, I need you to do me a favor to prove that you love me. Go kill your son. Sacrifice him on the altar. Okay? Now, first of all, he's all-knowing, right? He knows our hearts. He knows. So if that's true, let's suppose that's true, then God knows immediately, you know what, if I asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, he'd do it. He doesn't need to prove that to anybody. He doesn't need it to be audible, no. But, so why did he ask him? And so, it's some sick, twisted game, and so he asked him to murder your son on an altar, sacrifice him to me, because, God loves those sacrifices. Usually it's just animals. Usually, just murder an animal, set that thing on fire, because it smells so good. Make sure it's not blemished, though. If it's blemished, or if anything's wrong with it, I get mad about that. So, anyway, he waits till, he's getting ready to stab him. I'm like, you don't have to, I just need to know you'd do it. That's a funny question to ask Christians, too. It's like, oh, would you kill your kid for God? And they want to say, God would never ask me to do that. They want to say that, but they can't, because God already did once. Yeah, that happened. Now, we go on and we read, and there's more Bible. There's a whole chapter in Exodus about how to treat your slaves. So, is this the loving God? Is this the God that I have the wrong idea about? The God who doesn't have time to say, hey, while I'm in the middle of this whole Ten Commandments thing, how about I throw in a line about rape? And how about I throw in a line about slavery? Let's just not own people. And let's not rape people. But no, didn't have time for that. Instead, let me lay out some ground rules. If you're going to own a slave, hey, he even tells you how to beat them. If they don't die for the first couple days, that's okay. He also tells you how to take care of unruly children. Do you guys know how to take care of unruly children? Well, one way, according to the Bible, is you can take them out to the church, and you all gather around, and you pick up stones, and you throw them at them until your kid's dead. And then they won't be unruly anymore. That's in the Bible. It's not my fault if you haven't read it. Also, if you find people and they're sacrificing to other gods, or if they're off worshiping other gods, we can murder them too. I think that's mentioned in several places. I know one I was reading not long ago. It was in I want to say Deuteronomy 17, maybe. I could have that wrong. I think it talks about if they're worshiping other gods, let's kill them. What do we do? Literally, this is what Christians point at Muslims for. Is the Quran teaches you to kill unbelievers. So does this book. If you don't know that, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that you haven't read this book. And I know what a lot of people's going to say immediately. Joe, that's the Old Testament. It don't matter. Well, the Old Testament, even if it was done away with, let's just say it was. Even if God said, you know what, the Old Testament, you don't have to worry about that no more. It's still the same God. It's not a brand new God. It means He still did all that crap. So, this is the God that you're saying, Joe, honey, you have the wrong idea of God. God's a loving God. He loves you so much. All He wants to do is forgive you. Jesus came down and He died for your sins. The ultimate, your religion's based on a human sacrifice. He'd come down and His son had to, why? Why did His son have to die? Literally makes no sense. God, and then, to top it all off, except with the exception of you people who don't believe in hell, but for the rest of you who do, if you don't do all these things, you go to hell. Well, and then it's how could a loving God be you either love me or I'm going to send you to hell? How can a loving God say that? Well, Joe, it's not God's choice for you to go to hell. He doesn't want you to go to hell. It's the devil. Well, no, it's not the devil. It's God. He's all powerful, all knowing. He knew the future. He knew all this crap was going to happen. He knew billions of people were going to end up in hell but He set it all in motion. He knew what was going to happen. He created hell. He created evil. That's what it says in the Bible. That's in Isaiah, and I'm blank. I want to say Isaiah 43, maybe. I don't know, probably very. I'd look it up, but I don't have time. But look it up. God created the evil. You know, He created the darkness and the light, the good and the evil. Uh, that's the guy that you're telling me that I don't understand. That's the guy you're telling me, the God you're telling me. He's a good God. He's a loving God. Joe, he's not. He's not what you think he is. You know, yeah, sure. That one time, those kids, they kind of made fun of a prophet. They called him a bald head. And sure, God sent some bears. He sent some bears down, and they ate the kids. Yeah, murdered the kids. That was God. Yeah, sure, He did that. And sure, God said that even if your spouse is like serving other gods, and you find out, you should put them to death. Yeah, I get it. That looks bad. But he loves you so much. He loves you so much. What if I told you a story? What if I told you a story about a man who saw a burning building, and while everybody else stood back, he knew there was a little girl in that building, and he ran into that building, risked his own life. And he was in there for a long time, and people thought he wasn't going to come out, and he burst out, and he's got that little girl. And I keep saying little girl, I guess, instead of little boy, because I have my daughter, and I think of her. But he comes out with that little girl, and he lays her down, and he collapses, and he almost dies himself from smoke inhalation. And everybody's like, wow, what a hero, what a great guy. Well, what if I told you, you know what, it turns out that guy was Adolf Hitler. Would that change the way you think about Hitler? Would you be like, man, we had Hitler all wrong. He was really a stand-up guy. No. You'd be like, you know what? I guess he had some good in him. I guess he had that one good deed he did. It doesn't change the fact this was an evil man, right? It wouldn't change the way you felt about Hitler. So you point to me and you say, but look at this good thing God did. Look. It doesn't change all of the things that He did in this book. You know, I don't know how much good. I don't think there's enough good you could do to do away with the bad that He did in this book. So, that's kind of my point to this video. And you know what? I'm in the process of reading this Bible. I think I'm over halfway through, because I'm through Jeremiah. So, this is where I'm at. And maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll read something like, oh, I forgot he did all that. That kind of makes up for all that genocide. Maybe that'll happen, but I seriously doubt it, guys. And I just want to, maybe this video is a little harsher than my last one. And I honestly didn't intend it to be. I kind of had a lot of thoughts in my mind, and I wanted to talk about it, and I had it planned to be more mellow, but I got talking about it, and it made me angry. It makes me angry. You see, people think atheists are mad at God, right? I'm not. Because I don't believe in God. So all this stuff I read, I'm like, I realize this was people in that time writing the best they could, and what they thought a God would do, what a God would be like. It makes perfect sense when you think of it that way. You understand the Bible when you realize it's written that way, right? So I'm not mad at God. What I'm mad when a person in 2017 sits and tries to explain to me, why someone in control is giving a child cancer. Why there's a 4-year-old who's never known anything his entire life but pain and agony. That's like I can understand why that's happening. I can understand, because that's life. It happens. It sucks. There's one verse in the Bible, I wish I could remember where it's at, but it says, it rains on the just and the unjust. And I'm sure there's more to it, but that's what I remember of it. And that's my favorite verse, because to me there's no truer verse in the whole Bible. That's life right there. That is true. If you want one true thing in this book, that's it. And basically what I take from that means good things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. And bad things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to bad people. It's kind of like saying, well, stuff happens, right? And that's life. So I understand it. It sucks. It doesn't make it a whole lot easier, but it definitely makes it easier than me trying to explain how the person I love, the being, the God that I love more than my own family, if I believed in him, oh, this person, I have a personal relationship with God, and like I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I work out this where I know he's all powerful, but he's also all loving, and he also is putting that kind of pain and agony on a child who has done nothing. And you're going to tell me I have the wrong idea of God. And for the record, this book, I threw it on the ground. I'll probably get beheaded for that. But I haven't read this book yet, but I'm guessing it can't be much worse than this one. And maybe one day I will read it. That's really all I got to say right now, because I guess I got a little angrier than I should have. But thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you probably didn't. But if you did like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate everybody that already has. You can also, if you didn't like it, email me. Tell me why. Maybe we can talk about it at joe.therebelsadvocate@gmail. A lot of you have emailed me after my first video. I actually had quite a few emails, and I'm going to be honest. I answered a few of you, and there's a bunch more that I haven't gotten to, and I'll try to get to those. I promise. I know it'll be very late, but I will try to get to them. And I think I've read every one of them, because usually if they come through on my phone, I read them. But it's just like a lot of them were coming through when I was in the hospital with my baby, and I just didn't get around to it. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. And for those of you that stuck around and you want to hear about my situation, how to become a father, first of all, thanks for watching the whole video. I appreciate that, watching my rant. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you just fast forward. It's like, I just want to hear about the baby. I don't care about that. But thanks anyway. So my wife and I, we really weren't planning on having any kids right now. I mean, it's something we talked about, but we weren't making any definite plans. And I can't go into a whole lot of detail. I don't, my personal life. But there was a situation that arose where there was a baby that was born, and it couldn't have worked out more, beautiful. My wife happened to be in the room when the baby was born. I was in the waiting room when the baby was born, and even during that, we had no idea that this would be our baby. We didn't know. And 3 days later, we found out we were given the opportunity to adopt this beautiful baby girl. And I woke up on a Sunday morning, and I woke up, and I'll never forget, my wife's face was, she was like this close to me, and her eyes were wide open. I just opened my eyes, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And she looks at me and she says, whenever you wake up, we need to talk. She's like, go ahead and get your sleep, but whenever you wake up, we need to talk. I was like, well, there's no sleeping now. What have I done? What kind of trouble am I in? And so she tells me basically this story, and the events that led up to this, and now this baby, would I want to do this? And so it's something we talked about, and I think immediately we both knew, this is what we want to do. Of course, it isn't something you can just say immediately. It's like, we're not ready. We didn't have 9 months to prepare for this, and just one day we're just living our life as, you know, not parents, and the next day it's like, you want to be a mom and dad? And so we kind of mulled over it all day, and then it's like, can we do this? You know, are we financially able? Is all, you know, all these things. And my wife and I both work. Can we make that work? And so, you know, we decided, yeah, let's go for it. And man, as soon as we decided, you know, yeah, let's do it. Like the moment we said it, the moment we said it out loud, like, which was only, you know, maybe a few hours later, it was just like, then it was just like all the joy coming in, like, wow, you know, a lot of emotions to try to feel in a very short while. And unfortunately for us, the baby was there was complications, and you know, everything. She was in the hospital for 2 months, and for the first week or so, probably the first couple weeks after we found out we were going to be parents, and we're going through all this process of, you know, getting custody and going to court and doing this and that, and everything was like, there was absolutely no objections. Everything was free and clear, so it's a very easy process, but it's still tedious and expensive, and a lot of paperwork and a lot of, you know, lawyer and this and that. But for the first while, until we got all the paperwork in order, we couldn't visit the baby in the hospital because, you know, she was in the NICU, so that was really hard. And we finally got to go, and even though we were there when she was born, we saw her the day she was born, but, you know, after that. And so we finally got to go. It was so wonderful. You know, I can't even explain the love that I have for that little girl. I about well up and cry about it right now. We love her so much, but she's in the hospital for about a month in that hospital, which was an hour and a half away, and then she was transferred to a hospital 3 hours away, and was there another month. And so that was some tough times, but we finally got to bring her home, and she was born in January. We got to bring her home in March, and it's been great. There's still some complications, there's still some issues, but she's a trooper. She's strong, and I know, you know, I think she's going to be fine. And I know one thing: regardless of what comes out, she's going to be loved, and she's a beautiful baby girl. Maybe in a future video, maybe I'll bring her on and let you see her. We just could not be happier, and it's changed my life. It's been crazy busy. When I did my first video, I was like, you know, I get through the holidays, get through all that, and then, you know, maybe I'll get on schedule. I'll try to make a video a week, and boy, things changed, you know, and my priorities got shuffled around, and because I want to make these videos just, you know, because I think it's good, because I'm always, you know, I don't know why, but I'm passionate about this, because I guess where I live, like, religion is so prevalent. Like, it's everywhere. So I guess I guess there's a part of me that wants to be more active and do more and speak out. If nothing else, you know, not so much to try to convert people, but maybe be a voice for people that are quietly, you know, in their mind they're atheists and they're afraid to speak up. Maybe they're having doubts, but like, who do you talk to? You know, because I know when I wanted to talk, you know, I'd bring up questions, and it's like, you know, you shouldn't be questioning this. And so maybe just to let my voice be another voice that's heard, and somebody, you know, and I don't even care if you don't live, you know, near me, and you want to just email me, you know, email me, and we'll talk at joe.therebelsadvocate@gmail. You know, hit me up. And again, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.